Do you think it's our love of community? Like, do you think it's, growing up surrounded by family and there's, big bustling community around you? I wonder if that has then translated as we've written.
But I remember she said to me, pretty much, are you willing to do the work? And I thought it was a strange question because I thought, who would say no? But I didn't realise how much work it was. And I remember writing an email to my publisher saying, do you think I could write a fantasy novel? And the next day in block letters it was, of course you can. I just needed someone to say, of course you can.
So Looking for Alibrandi came out when I was 19 and I saw it on a shelf in a bookshop. It was the first time, I think, as a migrant girl that I had seen my experience in a book. So I became a Melina Marchetta mega fan from there. And it's just surreal to me now that I'm sitting here as a 51-year-old having loved you since I was 19 and being able to have a conversation with you. But I want to tell you something that you never knew before. When I was in Venice, I actually got the contract with my agent. It was while I was in Europe that she signed me. And I went to a jewellery shop and I bought a Murano glass ring. And I said to my husband, this is for Melina Marchetta. He said, you don't know Melina Marchetta? I said, I know, but one day I'm going to write a book set in Venice and she's going to cover quote for me. And then I didn't write that book for years. I happened to see you at a festival where I made a complete fool of myself when I saw you.
You didn't at all.
Because I was so excited to see you. And I had taken that ring with me. It was in Far North Queensland, remember Burdekin? Yeah. And I'd taken that ring with me that I'd held on to for years because I wanted to give it to you, even though at that stage didn't think I was going to write that Venice book anymore. I still wanted to share that with you. And then I didn't write the Venice book for another few years after that, but you ended up cover quoting it for me.
Well, it all came true. Yes, that was my mum's hometown. Did I ever tell you that festival
Burdekin.
That we were? Yeah. So my mum was from that town, so I had relatives and everything there. But I was wondering, if you knew that far back that you were going to write this book, I suppose. So you didn't go to Venice to research this book?
No, I was in Venice when I got the email from my agent and I hadn't published any books yet. I didn't know if she was going to get me published at all, but I thought if I ever get published, I want to come back and set a book here because I love this city. I'm so passionate about that city. And I thought, this is who I want to cover quote for me. I want Melina Marchetta because I loved you from Looking for Alibrandi, but then it hit obsession rates when you wrote On the Jellicoe Road, which is still my favourite book of yours. That book was incredible.
Which was just such a difficult book to sell to the world because, and it comes back to the migrant child thing that, it was my first book that wasn't about an Italian girl from the suburbs.
Yeah.
And it was almost as if everyone wanted you to be the Italian girl from the suburbs. So, so it was so hard when, you do something different and there's kind of not a response. And then all of a sudden it came in dribs and drabs and it's been probably one of my most spoken about books. So I always say to a Jellicoe reader, it's almost like you're the thinking girls kind of, this is a thinking girls book, and I'm always appreciative of that readership because I felt that kind of stuck there when I was trying to do something completely different.
Yeah, it's an unforgettable book. But what I love about your writing is that you can write anything, Melina. I mean, Finnegan of the Rock, now the children's books, is there anything you can't do? You're just able to switch genres like that. How have you found that?
I think anyone can switch a genre. I think that we're frightened to switch genres.
Do you think?
I just think, and I remember when I was going to write the fantasy novel, I was in New York. I'm going to, throw this around. I was in Scott Westerfeld and Justine Labalestier's apartment. And, when you're in a fantasy couple's apartment, you want to write a fantasy novel. And I remember writing an email to my publisher saying, do you think I could write a fantasy novel? And the next day in block letters it was, of course you can. I just needed someone to say, of course you can.
Oh, wow.
And really at the end of the day, and that's why I say anyone can write anything, I just always feel as if my books, regardless whether they're fantasy or crime or anything, they're still about families and communities.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't sway away from that at all. So I can put anything anywhere, but they're about families and communities. And I just, in a way, I don't know what to write except for families and communities. So
even the Zola books, like even
the Zola books, which were very much, you know, they were very much based on, I hate saying this because she's a bit naughty, Zola is, but so is my daughter and so my dogs. And we have lived with my mum, and we did have that neighbourhood. So once again, I was writing about my community, and especially during lockdown, because those books were written during lockdown. So I think, you know, when I think of what you wrote with the Venice Hotel, it's easier, I think, to write about your small world at home. But then when you're researching a book that is set overseas, like I'm curious about how much of the research was done here. Did you go back to kind of fill in the areas, and you know, did your research ever kind of get out of hand and you wanted to go in a different direction?
I didn't do any research before I went on the trip. So I went on the trip to get inspired, to see what would happen. And it's funny because I went there with the idea that it would be maybe a romance, like because I was in love with Venice. I wanted to write a book about how beautiful Venice is for tourists. And it wasn't until I got there and I spoke to the locals that I realised I had to write a very different book to what I had in my mind. Because while I was just, you know, thinking about the culture and the architecture and the food, all of them were talking about climate and the environment, and that their city is drowning. So I had to give them a voice. So the story that I thought I'd write, and my research really was it was very casual. I was just talking to people in the water, on the streets, in the shops, trying to talk to as many Venetians as I could to hear their stories. And then it was when I came back that I started to deep dive that climate change that I, you know, shamefully had been one of the tourists that was helping cause the problem. So I did find it difficult to maybe do justice to the city. I wanted to make sure that people were still left in love with Venice, but more aware. That was the balance that I found a little bit hard.
Well, I was so in love with it that we're going there at Christmas time. It. And I always say I'm not going to go back to Venice because I don't want to contribute to, you know, everything that goes wrong. But also because I've been there so many times, and last time we were in Europe, we went there just for the day, and it was because we were staying in Verona. And this time my daughter said to me, I really want to stay in Venice. And I thought, I want to see Venice through her eyes. Yeah. So, you know, we're there for a couple of nights. But and we're there a couple of nights around the same time as your novel is set, because it's set around Christmas time.
I know, it's amazing.
And it's so, you know, so many people say don't travel, you know, during winter, whatever, and I think, oh no, I want to be in Europe during winter because I love the cold, but I also love the idea of the Christmas markets and everything. So
Venice in winter is just beautiful. It's quieter. It's not one of the peak Christmas places where people go. So you're going to find that you can walk the back streets completely alone. And, you know, Venetians love tourists to go when they're doing what you're doing, when they're going to stay and stay overnight and help the hotel owners, eat in the restaurants, buy from Venetian artisans, all of that. I think it's just 75% of people descend on Venice for a few hours and then leave. Yeah. So it's just really their footsteps on those centuries-old pavers. That's all they do, and then they leave. So I think you're doing it a beautiful way. I've told everyone I know that you booked Venice after reading the book. I know, it was just, I'm so disappointed that I can't stay at the same hotel as you did, but we just can't get in. But I also think what we have in common, we've got a lot of things in common, but in our writing, especially with the Venice Hotel, I am the greatest fan of A Cast of Thousands. Like I try to go into writing a novel with a couple of people, and then I fall in love with someone who's not supposed to be a main player or says one thing and I think, oh, what's your story? So I just was wondering, you know, did you go into it thinking you were going to have all these characters, or did you always have, you know, the first two in that family that owned the... I was always going to do... I love writing lots of characters. I think it's from my love of growing up of Maeve Binchy. Yeah. Like just reading those books that always had a lot of characters. Do you think it's our love of community? Like, do you think it's, you know... growing up surrounded by family and there's, big bustling community around you. I wonder if that has then translated as we've written.
I think it has a lot to do with that, because this is one thing that I learned as I was growing up, and even just recently, I know so many people because, we used to have Sunday lunch with 25 people, like every single Sunday.
Yeah.
So, and I could tell you the names of my third cousin's children.
Yes.
And then I come across someone who, like, that idea of so many people, they're not familiar with it, whereas I am. And I just think that everyone's got a story. And I truly believe that. And I also truly believe that there's good in everyone. So I always find that even if I start with a character who's just supposed to be there for the purpose of the main character, I do find that there's something that they're contributing to their story in the same way as in life in general.
Yeah.
And, my favourite thing to say is, because it's so true, and it happens constantly, and it still happens to me this week, is I get into the most intense conversations in the aisles at Coles, and it's just people, if they know that you tell stories, they want to tell you stories. And so there's just so much, even I suppose when we get together, there's just so much storytelling.
Yes.
And you can't help find slithers of those stories and want to tell them, but also you don't necessarily think that all of that comes from your main characters. So, I really loved that about the Venice Hotel, because I don't think there was a time where I thought, I can't wait to get to this person. I did think I can't wait to get to this person's story, but I loved the story that I was in, the couple or the family I was in.
That.
So, and of course, food. Any book that mentions food, I think that's why also I feel as if I have to recreate all the food that you had in this story. But
I hope you get to taste some of it while you're away.
I'm sure, and I think that I feel as if that's the beauty of also travelling in winter, that you're not caught up in the tourist menus and things like that. You want the food that they're making in the back.
Yes, exactly, and you want the food that they're making for their own locals.
Yes.
Like you want the restaurants that aren't putting their menus in English.
Exactly.
They're cooking for the locals. I have to tell you, your books have gone generationally for my family. So me and my cousins of my generation adore you. I've given Francesca to my daughter, that she's now 21, and she loved that. And then I sent you the books to sign, so you signed them. But then I sent you little videos of my cousin Louise, who lives in South Africa, brought her daughter Alice, a 2-year-old, to visit us, and she was reading. You saw the footage of my daughter reading to her cousin the Zola books, and I love that you have gone through the generations of my family. I hope it keeps going. How does that even feel? I can't imagine how that would feel. That I loved you as a 19-year-old with Alibrandi, and now you've got these 2-year-olds who are reading your work.
I think it is the longevity that has taken me by surprise. It's just we have another connection in the sense that my publisher of Alibrandi is the mum of your publisher of the Venice Hotel, Julian Ali. And I will always remember the letter that Julie wrote me. And it was before I had to do a whole lot of editing. So, there's no way that book was what you read now. It was bigger than Ben-Hur. It just oh my God. But I remember she said to me, pretty much, are you willing to do the work? And I thought it was a strange question, because I thought, who would say no? But I didn't realise how much work it was. But she said something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, she said, I think this is the type of book that will be read in years to come. And I can't believe that she predicted.
How perceptive.
I think I'm going to say she predicted in 1989 or around then what would happen with this book.
Oh, wow.
And that stays with me. I've got that letter and it stays with me. Because
you've still got the letter?
Oh, God,
How
because
beautiful.
back in the day when you used to get letters in the mail, that came through the mail. But I think you just never imagine, I know this sounds ridiculous, but you would know what I mean. In a way, you don't even imagine someone's going to read your book. When someone says, I've read your book, I think, oh my God, you know. I'm always curious about how people got hold of it. And for me, the fact that the 200 people that I knew in the world back then, of course I know more now, I just thought they were the only people who were going to read my work.
It's so funny that you say that, because whenever I get an email from someone or a message, I always say to my husband that I don't know this person, they don't know me. And he always says, honey, people who don't know you are going to read your book. But I'm always shocked that someone who I don't personally know in my life has taken the time to write to me.
Yeah.
But you, something beautiful that you said to me when I told you, I think you're one of the very few people, and Cheryl, one of the very few people that I told when I signed with my beautiful, I'm just so in awe of her, Ali Watts. You sent me a message and you said, her mother changed my life and I hope she changes yours. And that meant so much to me as well. I just love that we've got the same.
But it is changing your life, because it's someone who's reading your work, and especially as an unknown for me, and it's finding a connection with it and thinking, I'm going to put in the work for this. I mean, it was so flawed. And I just think that there are special people out there who find the story that needs to be told.
Yeah.
And that's why you're, as a writer, you're so willing to go on that journey, you know, as an editor.
Yes.
So we've got so much in common.
I know. I could sit and talk to you all day.
And I always look forward to your lovely presents that you send, you know, my generation every year. Like, we look forward to them. So it's just so kind glad. Of, yeah. Anyway.
Oh, thank you.
This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you for everything, Melina. You're amazing.
Thank
Such
you.
a huge fan.